Hey, homeschool friends. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it is mid-year. Like, I'm halfway through our homeschool year. We have finished up week 18 and now we are rolling into the second half of the year. And I thought it was time to do a little bit of a reflection on how the first half went. I have found it so useful to spend time in kind of a big picture reflection time where I can kind of step back from what we're doing and look at things maybe objectively, try not to be like too critical of myself or feeling like everything's falling apart or anything like that, but just to step back and try and see some bigger connections, some bigger trends of what's happening in our homeschool, and then maybe be able to tweak things and adjust things and change things for the second half of the homeschool year. And so that's what this video is about. I'm going to chat through a bit about how I feel like our first half of the year went, as well as update you on my changes, the things that I am doing differently, the things we are adjusting. So stay tuned if you are at all interested in hearing what we're doing differently for the second half of our homeschool year. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you are new here, or welcome back if you have been coming for a while. So like I said, this video is equal parts reflections as well as changes. What are we changing for this next half of the homeschool year? And let's just dive in. So since I have been doing monthly updates with you all, I feel like I have a really good pulse on the day-to-day. Like what's happening kind of day-to-day, what do we need? How is our schedule going? And I have some changes on schedule that I'm going to share with you. But I have a really good handle on that stuff. What I feel like I lose track of come this time of year is like my bigger picture stuff. Like what were my goals for each individual child and our homeschool in general? Like what do I want our homeschool to be like? What is our homeschool style? All these things, right? And so I felt like it was a wonderful time to reflect and pray and just really consider what's going on. And that has been really fruitful and really good. And it has really helped me think through some things. So if I'm thinking just homeschool, like our homeschool style, I feel like I've talked about this so many times over the course of the 3 years I've been here on YouTube, is I have always been so drawn to Charlotte Mason. And I just struggle at making it happen. And I have learned that that's okay. I can take inspiration from her, and I can take inspiration from other YouTubers or curriculum creators that do it better, that really embrace that lifestyle, the Charlotte Mason lifestyle, and I can pick and choose. And so the parts of Charlotte Mason that really do work for me and for my kids is to work on narration and discussions, which is very much Sonlight anyway. It's not necessarily set up in a narration sort of way. They have more like questions in their instructor guides, but I feel like I kind of do both. I mesh it just depending on how my kids are paying attention. If I ask for just a narration, or if I talk through the questions, or if the questions result in narration. So I feel like narration is something that I feel like I can do from Charlotte Mason. Another thing is copy work, but I'm using it more as a supplement to teaching grammar and things like that, which I am using Abeka for. I've just learned that's what I need. I can have higher aspirations, but it's hard for me to follow through on like actually like teaching grammar through copywork. But I can if it's more of a supplement. And so I can take the copywork passages that come with Sonlight and I can remind them of things we've learned with Abeka and things like that. So copywork, I do like. I'm just not doing it myself and maybe not doing it how Charlotte Mason would do it. But I still utilize it. And I think it's really good for the kids, especially as we work ourselves up into dictation, which I think is even better for the kids than copywork. But I haven't tried it yet. So we'll see how I actually feel here in like a year or two when we switch over to dictation for my oldest. But I feel like that is about what I'm doing with Charlotte Mason. I'll read about it, I'll get inspired, and then it kind of all falls through, or I can't make it happen. And I've just learned that I only have so much energy and so much bandwidth. And if it rests on my shoulders to do, I'm bad at doing it, honestly. And so I just need to embrace that's who I am and find curriculum that fits me better. And honestly, curriculum like Sonlight does fit me better. And I love Sonlight, so I think I should just kind of let Charlotte Mason go a little bit. And so that was kind of my first reflection, especially as I was looking back through old videos, how I was so excited. I was reading about Charlotte Mason. I was trying to understand how to teach language arts, how to teach writing and composition, and I learned a lot. And I think I can take some of what I learned into our current system, but I can't revamp my system. I just can't. I can't do it. So I'm trying to let that go and appreciate it for what it is and how it does work for others, and just know it doesn't work for me, and that's okay. And that brought me to thinking about like the initial goals I had set for my kids, which I cannot remember if I shared the goals or how I do goals. I think I have a how I make goals for my homeschool and each individual child, but I don't think I shared too much about their goals in particular. But we're doing fairly well on those. I feel like it's nice to look back at the goals for each kid. It's a really good idea, actually, especially this midway point where, like, for instance, my 9-year-old son, I have down love of reading, like setting a foundation for composition and critical thinking. So those three things are the core ideas I really want him to be working on this year. And we're doing really well. But it does remind me to help a little bit more with the love of reading and setting him up with more opportunities, whether it be bedtime or first thing during quiet time, things like that, because we have a lot of books and he's excited about a lot of books, but he doesn't always pick them up. He prefers audiobooks, which makes sense. I mean, there's not much work with audiobooks and he still gets to enjoy the stories. But we're working on that. And then also with like critical thinking, I feel like that's going well as I'm teaching him better to organize his thoughts and kind of that narration style of things. I feel like we've made progress this year. So we'll just keep making progress. As for like early composition, we're doing good. Sonlight's been going much better. We're about to switch, which I'll share with you shortly, into Sonlight's Language Arts 3. And so I'll explain that in just a second, which will take it up a step with the composition. So I feel like I'm pretty on track with his goals. And then his sister, so she's 7.5. The main thing I have for her is learning to read, as well as keeping working on critical thinking. And we're doing it. She's learning really well. She is really picking up the phonics with Rebecca, and it's really fun to see. I love it. Honestly, I love it. It has been much less of a struggle since we switched into Rebecca. And then critical thinking, we're working through organizing our thoughts. It's much harder for her. It is funny how that 1.5-year age gap really does make a difference for processing what you're hearing and being able to structure it into something that makes sense, whether it's orally or even like when I'm trying to type up her creative expressions or kind of early writing prompts. It's harder for her, and that's okay. And that's part of the process, but that's on her list as well. And then as for the twins, really, they just turned 5. Their whole goal has been like preschool learning, skill building, play. They do that all fantastically. Their teacher just told me, because they do 2 afternoons a week at preschool, their teacher just told me they do really well. They focus really well during any kind of focused writing, learning time, and they're right on track. They're ready for kindergarten. So I'm just, my mama heart, just that felt so good to hear that, and to also be proud of myself for allowing someone else to help me with that, because I feel like I was feeling guilty initially last year when we put them in preschool, and I'm just really thankful that I did that. I feel like it was a good choice for me. It worked out really well for them. So those are kind of my goals for my kids and kind of bigger picture goals. And so thinking about that, reflecting on all of that and being like, you know what, our first half of this year has been really good. They have made progress. They're both growing in math and their language skills and their handwriting skills, and they're loving all of the science and history that we're reading. It's been a really sweet year, and I've loved it. And so that means there's not too many changes, but there are some key changes that we're going to make. The first is more of moving on to the next year sort of idea. So with both my big kids, they've been doing Sonlight Language Arts. Again, in these years, I'm focusing more on Rebecca than on Sonlight, but I'm moving them both through the Sonlight Language Arts just to get them used to the creative expression and things like that, because that's the direction I want to go. And so my daughter is moving from Language Arts 1 to Language Arts 2, and my son's moving from Language Arts 2 to Language Arts 3. And the Language Arts 3 is a really important one for the Sonlight Language Arts, because that's when they introduce what's called diamond notes, which is a way for the kids to organize a paragraph. Basically, it's a paragraph writing tool set up in a baseball diamond, and I think my son will really appreciate that. He is very logical, and I can see him thinking through kind of the 3 main points of an idea and home base and pictures mound. I haven't looked at it too closely, but we're going to get started with that come the new year, and I'm really jazzed. I think he is ready for it. As long as we keep the goal to be more of a partnering, working together, me sharing how to do things well, I think he'll do really well with that. So we are making the switch over on language arts. So that's a change, but it's mostly just the next step. Same with the twins. And so we've been doing Sonlight and Rebecca. And so Sonlight for the reading, basically, and we were doing their 3-4 program. I think it's called T. And we're moving into their 4-5 program, which is called P. And that's where we're starting. We're starting on week 1, and we're just going to go through at normal pace and just kind of be off by half a year. That's my current plan, is that then they will start their new program next January as well. So we'll just run them on the yearly calendar instead of the academic calendar. But I think that'll be just fine. They're very ready for longer stories. They really enjoy sitting and listening to me read to them. And so I think it's a perfect transition point for them. So those are kind of the changes that are just like the next in the series of what we're learning. Everything else curriculum-wise is staying the same. I really like what we have going on. I just talked about the fact that we just switched to spelling UC. I talked about that in my last update. It's still going really well. We still like it. So we're just going to keep trucking with that. But the only other thing that is changing that's not significant, but it does make a difference, is my schedule. And so what I have been struggling with is to find the time for the science experiments, which I have talked about on this channel. I made a whole video of like do an experiment with us where I was going through a Sonlight science experiment, but I still haven't figured out how to find the time. And what I decided is I think I'm going to do a whole science day. So do all the reading for science, the 4 days of reading plus the experiment day, all on one day. And don't do any of the other readings for that day and just kind of squish those into the remaining 3 days of the week. And so that is my current plan. And I think it's going to end up on Mondays. And the reason is just kind of the way we have the rest of our week set up. And I can link our scheduled video. It's fairly similar still to what we're doing. And now we're just going to shift around Monday to be our science day. And I'm pretty sure I'm still going to start with math. I think it's a good rhythm and routine for my kids. We always start with math. So we're still going to start with math. Then we're going to move into science, reading, experiment, and then follow that with some language arts, but not all of the language arts, because that's another thing that I'm doing with our schedule is since I've dropped the second day of Sonlight Language Arts, which with Sonlight Language Arts, the Monday is copywork, Tuesday's copywork application, Wednesday and Thursday are creative expression. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking the creative expression, the 2 days of that, and I'm moving it to Tuesday, Thursday afternoons, because those are the afternoons my twins are at preschool. It gives me the most time with my big kids to really just sit and participate in setting up good habits for composition, especially as my son is moving into the language arts 3 from Sonlight. I think we're going to need a decent amount of time, and I might throw the copywork then onto Wednesday or something like that. But I'm also being more realistic with my Wednesdays. So basically we have Monday through Thursday to work with, and Fridays their enrichment school day. So that's Monday science, Tuesday, Thursday afternoons is going to be for writing, composition, and then Wednesdays, I'm going to have that extra little copywork in there. But otherwise, we're going to do what we always do. I'm just going to try not to add anything extra to that day, because that's also the day I tend to record my YouTube videos. And before that, I was trying to really fit it into the cracks. And I don't really want to. I enjoy this. This is such a fun hobby for me to be able to share on this and to share on books on my other channel, that I just need to honestly make some time in my schedule for it. And so it fits right there in our homeschool day on Wednesdays. And so that means I don't need to also put all the other things on there, like art or history kit or science experiment. I just need to keep that day really simple and then have the other days be dedicated to different things. I think I'm going to move like things like art to the weekends or summer break for that matter. And really, we have not been good about keeping up on art. I never have been. I don't know if maybe that's something else I need to reflect on and just be like, maybe I should let this go. They always take art at their enrichment school. How do you guys handle that when you have like a co-op or enrichment day? Do you just kind of let the co-op handle that and just put it off your plate? Or do you feel like it creeps back onto your plate? Like But we should also do art, even though they're doing plenty of art and robotics and, cooking class and musical theater and all these wonderful things at enrichment school. I just probably need to let it go off of my plate and not let it creep back on. So sorry if that was a little bit random and kind of all over the place. I feel like it was. I hope it was understandable to you. But basically, I love to reflect on our homeschool, especially midway, to bring back up those goals, to rethink about my homeschool style, to rethink about what I want out of our homeschool. And then if I need to tweak or refocus some things, I can do that. And I can do that midway. And I am doing that. I just love that I'm not making huge changes, you guys. That means that it's going well. I feel like we're in a good rhythm, a good routine. We have amazing curriculum. We're in a good spot. And so I'm really thankful for that. So anyway, that is what I have for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to, and otherwise I'll see you guys in the next homeschool video. All right, take care.